Hello again. I was browsing the BBC website when I came across an image which I found a little distasteful. I'm aware that we are supposed these days to distinguish carefully between different groups of men who choose to wear women's clothes, so that we are careful not to muddle up transvestites with transsexuals, for instance, and also to acknowledge that flamboyant homosexuals may also dress up as women from time to time, and that these must not be confused with drag queens. If I were a woman, I might find a lot of this offensive, but I'm not, so as far as I'm concerned, they can get on with it, although I would prefer that people indulged in these activities in the privacy of their own homes, rather than on the streets. Still, it doesn't do me any harm, and if they really want to make an exhibition of themselves in public, it's nothing to me. I expect that viewers are waiting for a but, and here it comes. But I draw the line at grown men fooling around in this way by dressing up as schoolgirls in public. This is not just because there is something indescribably tacky about doing so. There is a more serious objection to the practice. I stumbled across a bit about a programme which the BBC produced about men dressing up as women. It is called RuPaul's Drag Race. I was confused at first because drag racing means something quite different to me and it involves fast motor cars. But this programme seems to be some sort of contest between cross-dressing men. One image caught my eye and I used it as the thumbnail to this video. It is of two men dressed as schoolgirls. Well, what's wrong with that, you ask? Is it worse than Danny LaRue or Widow Twankey in a pantomime? Yes, it is. And here's why. A lot of those men who like to wear women's clothes, and I'm talking now about all categories, transvestites, transsexuals and drag queens, some of them get off on the practice. This is because many of them are part of a paraphilia called autogynephilia, which means men who become sexually excited at the thought of being women. This is, of course, why some of us object to seeing drag queens in libraries in this country, trying to recruit young children to join the world of cross-dressing. In the description to this video, I give a link to a piece about this practice. The abstract of it observes quite truthfully that autogynephilia exemplifies an unusual paraphilic category called erotic target identity inversions, in which men desire or impersonate or turn their bodies into facsimiles of the persons or things to which they are sexually attracted. And right there is the huge problem with men dressing as schoolgirls, as we see in the thumbnail to this video. Without knowing these men personally, I cannot be sure if this is a little innocent fun or if they are impersonating the persons to which they are sexually attracted. In other words, how do I know whether or not those guys are getting off on the idea of schoolgirls because they fancy them? To my eye, one of them is wearing an extremely short skirt and looks pretty sexualized. Yuck. Only a few years ago, any ordinary person would have found this kind of thing a little creepy, but we have most of us been conditioned now to pretend that men dressing up in schoolgirl uniforms with white knee socks is a perfectly normal thing to do. It really isn't. Just to be very clear, if a man wishes to dress up in that way in his own home and keeps his activities to himself, I can have no possible objection because it does not affect anybody else in the world. However, when he is flaunting himself on the BBC's website, where everybody can see him, and when, as we saw this summer, libraries in this country were encouraging children to come and listen to drag queens telling them how wonderful it was for men to dress as women, I do feel that we should rein it in a bit. There is such a thing as being too tolerant. In the description to this video, I give a link to the article about autogynephilia and also a link to the BBC website about this programme, a competition about drag queens.